All right, so I have a class coming up in just about a week that Ashley Bolden and I are hosting on ADUs and financing in ADU. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about what exactly an ADU is. And um, regardless of your definition, I'm going to talk about it from a lending perspective. So, what a lender is going to consider a financeable ADU. And I'm going to primarily focus on your conventional options. So, what, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are really looking at, and even, pull up the Fannie Mae guidebook a little bit and kind of show you how their definitions are laid out. So, let me see here. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Okay, share. All right, so this first thing here is just going to talk a little bit um, about what an ADU is, and this is a really high level overview, and then I'll delve in a little bit deeper on the conventional side of things. So, um, an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. That's what it stands for, accessory dwelling unit. So everybody calls them ADUs in the industry, but if you're not familiar, that's what we're referring to. And what that is a smaller, separate additional living space. So it's on the same lot, it's next to your house, but it is smaller than your house. And it being subordinate in size is really important to the definition. Like I said, this is just a general overview on what qualifies as an ADU in really simple terms. So, if we look here, commonly referred to as an accessory apartment or in-law suite, so you might hear them referred to as mother-in-laws. It is a smaller additional living space on the same lot as a single-family home. It has to include a space for living, sleeping, cooking, and bathrooms that are independent of the primary residence. So it can't be, you can't have like a shared kitchen or bathroom or anything. It doesn't need it can include access to the primary residence, but this is another important piece. It must also be accessible without going through the primary residence. So if you have to enter the ADU through the primary, that's not going to count for lending purposes. You'll have to have an outside entrance as well. Um, and then here are just a couple of examples, and I'm actually going to pull up this little picture here because I think it helps to kind of illustrate. Um, so you have your attached ADU um, within the primary residence. So in this situation here, it's a basement ADU. So see, you have your second entrance, but then the main house, the main living area is up there. It's a finished basement with its own private entrance, kitchen, bathroom, and living area. Can also be here is attached to the primary residence. So this is actually inside the primary residence, and this one is attached to the primary residence. So it's over the garage, but still attached, and has its own private living space, private entrance, all of that. And then you can also have a DADU or a detached ADU. It can also be a manufactured home, and it is completely separate from the primary residence, such as here, detached cottage. This says tiny home, but it can't be on a trailer movable around. It can be a small home, or a manufactured home with full independent living facilities. So those are kind of the three different options when it comes to an ADU. Um, and then I wanted to pull up a couple more requirements. This is delving a little deeper into the Fannie Mae selling. This is the actual Fannie Mae selling guide and where it addresses ADUs. So it does typically, it's an additional living area independent of the primary dwelling. Um, And then, like we said, it has to provide for living, sleeping, cooking, and bathroom facilities and be on the same parcel as the primary one unit dwelling. So that's important. They need to be on the same parcel. Now, this next point is is why I wanted to come over here and point this out because there's a lot of ADUs being built in this area right now. It's a really um, I mean, density is increasing, and one way to deal with that and provide housing for everyone is with accessory dwelling units. And at this time, and I will say that with that, with all of these legislative changes and zoning changes that have been going on within cities individually, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA and VA, like they're catching up. So these guidelines are are revised at least every year, but consistently. So, this is what they are now on, June 6, 2026. Um, but it is a living document. So, what's not allowable today, could be allowable in the future. And right now, as of now, only one ADU is permitted on the parcel of the primary one unit dwelling. So if you're in a situation where you're wanting to build two or three or four ADUs on your property, you're going to have to look at either different zoning options, potentially condoizing the land, something like that, or you're going to have to look at maybe alternate financing and a different way to finance that is not through conventional means. So one ADU permitted on the parcel of the primary one unit dwelling. Now, they are not permitted for Fannie with 2 to 4 unit dwellings. You wouldn't be able to have like a duplex and an ADU. Here's the bit. It must be subordinate in size to the primary dwelling, so it does have to be smaller. And then, this is where it lays out those items that it has to include. So then I'm gonna jump back here. Um, and let's see, where did I want to go next? So what's great about ADUs is you can purchase a home with an ADU already on it, or there are also a lot of different options, both through through regular conventional financing and FHA that would allow you to purchase a property and build an ADU. So you can see here, add an ADU to an existing property with home style renovation, construction to permanent financing is another option, um, or home ready. Buy a home with an existing ADU with home ready. And so these are all things that we're going to cover in our class, just kind of different financing options that you have available. And then so then now we've talked about what an ADU is, and it depends, you might have different reasons for wanting to build that ADU, and one of those reasons might be rental income. So rental income on the subject property from an existing ADU can be used to qualify with the following conditions. So it has to be a one unit principal residence only. The rental income from only one ADU is allowed. So again, they're not interested in multiple ADUs on your property. Um, and qualifying so this bit here, qualifying rental income amount from the ADU is limited to 30% of the total qualifying income. So basically, your income has to make up, if we're looking at all of the income as a whole, the ADU income that we're able to use can only equal 30% of the total that we're totally allowed to use. That doesn't mean that we can only use 30% of that income. It means that it can only equal 30% of the total qualifying income. That's a little confusing, and that's something really that's going to come out more on my end, but just it can't you can't qualify on ADU income alone is probably the takeaway on that one. Um, So how do we document this? If you already have a house that has an ADU and you're wanting to document that you rent it out, then we're going to use your tax return, your most recent tax return, and just, look at that Schedule E like we would evaluate any other rental income, and we're taking the net. So we take what you pay um, after taxes. If there is an existing lease that will transfer to the borrower, then we will use that existing lease and we can take 75% of that rent and apply it to offset or to, add in that income to help you qualify. And then for one unit properties, we can get that appraisal form, the rent schedule. If so, this would be we'll get the rent schedule anyways, but if there is no actual renter at the time, we can use what we would expect to get um, for rent based on that appraisal. So this is kind of what's there to support that. Um, okay, and then this is a nice little handy chart. Does the borrower have a history of receiving rental income? Um, and we're doing a refinance. Yes, we're doing a refinance, and it lists the documents that we can use. So this is kind of a behind the scenes look. If I'm like, oh, is this something I can do that with a regular loan? Then I'll look it up here. And if I find the answer is no, then I go back to my lenders and I say, okay, what products do we have available that would fit this scenario? But this is my first go-to. Like, how does it work here? You don't have a past of receiving rental income from the property. It's a purchase. We can look at the appraisal and copies of the current lease agreements. And if the property is, here's this piece, if the property is not currently rented or if the existing lease is not being transferred to the borrower, then lease agreements are not required and the Form 1007, Form 1025, which is the appraisal, the income operating statement and rent schedule that would go along with the appraisal may be used. So, yeah. So ADUs, just a quick recap, accessory dwelling units. I like this little statement here that can be used to add value to the borrower's home, provide additional space for extended family, or allow a borrower to earn rental income and help with, affordable housing. So ADUs are a great option. If you are interested in learning more and want to attend our class, please reach out to me. The class is coming up on June 14th, and I will post some additional information in the comments. All right. Have a great night, everybody.